Thank you for having me, Ron, and it's always a pleasure for me to do a quick presentation here. Um, just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Shiva. I'm the technical solutions architect at Hycu. I've been with the company for more than, I would say, close to 3.5 years now. Prior to this, I've been working with companies like NetApp and EMC, and my uh, expertise, and more than expertise, my passion is towards data protection solutions, be it with regards to data storage or uh, multi-vendor data protection solutions, or be it with regards to protecting resources in on-prem or public cloud. It's always been about data protection and data center monitoring. Although this is a webinar, I expect the session to be interactive as well. So if you folks have any questions at all, please feel free to post them on chat, and I'll do everything I can to answer those questions for you. So with that being said, let's get started. So just wanted to give you a quick overview, a quick introduction about what our company is all about, right? So as always, the company's name is Hycu, which stands for Hybrid Cloud Uptime. We are headquartered out of Boston. Although we do have offices across the globe, we do have 3 offices in the United States, one in Boston, we also have one in Austin, Texas, and we also have another one at Chicago. With that being said, one of the cool things about our company is our engineering team. That is our core strength, because we have an amazing history in building data protection solutions even before Hycu came into picture, because our engineers, and as a company as a whole, we were basically under a parent organization known as Comgrade Software. And our engineers were, they were like, we've been having more than 25 years worth of experience in building backup and recovery solutions for blue chip companies like EMC, HP, right? And finally, we decided, what if we try to create our own, brand, a brand that basically stands for simplicity, ease of use, while staying extremely relevant to the current infrastructure and being enterprise ready, be it with regards to huge customers or be it with regards to customers of any size, right? And that is exactly why we came up with the true multi-cloud data protection solution, right? Where we have the ability to protect all of your on-prem workloads and seamlessly move them to the specified government cloud, or even government cloud targets for federal customers, or public cloud backup targets for commercial customers. And we also have a pretty good worldwide presence. We have sold our solution to more than 75 countries across the globe, and we have more than 3,000 plus customers right now across multiple verticals. So that is a very quick introduction about who we are and what we deliver. But when I basically get into the core offering, especially when it comes to federal customers, is our seamless backup protection from malware and ransomware attacks. Now, this is something that I wanted to start with first, because I'm sure by now, and in the previous session, Rosa, I mean, that was like one of the best sessions that I've seen on security. Very approachable. Thank you for that. And I don't have to provide an introduction about like what ransomware attack is and how prevalent these attacks have been. I mean, the question here is, it's not a matter of if your organization is going to be attacked by a ransomware. It's simply a question of when, right? And everybody should be prepared for this eventuality. And backups are one of the most, accessible, and at the same time the most approachable way of recovering an organization from a ransomware attack. And we actually have true experiences in helping out our customers who've been attacked by a ransomware, and we've basically helped them recover from that ransomware attack in the most efficient manner possible. And they didn't even have to spend a penny to pay to those perpetrators, right? The second thing is, it's not just about protecting your on-prem infrastructure, but it's also about protecting your on-prem infrastructure to a GovCloud environment, right? And this is about not just performing, seamless backups from point A to point B, but also helping you with migrations, which actually comes to an easy lift and shift. Now, when it comes to performing backups to GovCloud, right, especially when it comes to object storage, it's not an easy process, because there's a lot of performance implications, and most of the times, your typical contemporary vendors would basically do backups to your GovCloud in a form of an archive or in the form of a secondary backups, but that's not what we do. We truly introduced this concept of serverless backups, or how do I say this? Backups with zero on-prem footprint, where you really don't have to install any hardware in your on-prem infrastructure, and you can directly ship your backups to your preferred cloud vendor. And I'll be talking more about how we achieve that. And the process of doing backups, we also have this ability of seamlessly moving your workloads from your on-prem infrastructure to your preferred cloud infrastructure. And that is exactly what we can offer today. So let's start with the security component, right? The one that I've been talking about. So as I mentioned before, one of the most important things, especially when it comes to protecting an organization from a ransomware attack, is to ensure that you have solid backups, right? Now, having regular backups is one thing, basically making sure that your backup SLAs are met, your RPOs, RTOs are met. I mean, I'm not going to talk about that. What I'm basically going to talk about is, assuming that your backup SLA is being met, how are you able to secure your backups? Because when that attack happens, and assuming that your production environment is compromised, you need to ensure that your backups are not compromised. They're located in this isolated vault, which is even locked out from a production environment, so that even when your production environment is compromised, you can rely on your backups to recover from that ransomware attack. True story. This actually happened to one of our customers. For obvious reasons, I cannot name that customer. And in that specific case, the customer was actually like totally unaware of such a security risk until that fateful day happened. This customer basically got his entire production environment encrypted. Unfortunately, he was storing his backup. They were storing their backups on unsecured SMB shares, and even their SMB shares were encrypted. Right. The only thing that was not encrypted was Hycu, because that was like a black box virtual appliance. And he basically called our customer support, and one of the good things that he had basically done was retain platform level snapshots. So because of Hycu's secure integration with our Nutanix environment, the customer was basically able to utilize Hycu's front end to make use of those snapshots to recover instantaneously from that ransomware attack. And that customer was able to, recover all of his encrypted systems, and he didn't even have to pay a penny to those perpetrators. And that was one of the biggest success stories that we had when it comes to Hycu protecting or helping a customer to recover from a ransomware attack. And we have today several built-in features, security features like multi-factor authentication, or the ability to segment your management and your backup networks, and isolating those backup networks to a totally different domain to ensure that even your production environment doesn't have access to that network. We also have the ability to encrypt your backups in a way that there is no security breach, or there is no, there is basically no breach of network traffic from source to the destination. Black box based architecture, which basically ensures that your entire Hycu backup infrastructure has no backdoor access. Only authorized users can access into the Hycu's front end UI. And also multi-tenancy, right? We actually have multi-tenancy, full-fledged multi-tenancy in place, where Hycu users can only access the resources that they're authorized to view. And even all of that metadata is basically hidden inside the specific tenants, and even the super administrators won't be able to monitor or basically view the tenant's information unless the tenant administrator provides the explicit access. So it's basically like a multi-layered security infrastructure where you can truly offer an air-gap backup security. And in addition to that, if those walls of fortification are broken, and even if, let's say, a user with a malicious intent or a malware or a ransomware basically breaks into that backup infrastructure, as a last line of defense, Hycu can directly perform backups to worm-enabled object storage, be it on-prem or public cloud, so that your backups are fully immutable. So even a super administrator won't be able to edit or modify or even delete those backups until the hardware retention time is reached. So this is basically the 360-degree protection that you're looking for. Full-fledged air-gap backup security with 100% backup immutability, right? So how do we achieve that? We can basically do backups directly to your object storage for your on-prem with worm capability enabled, or we could do backups directly to GovCloud object storage, namely Azure and AWS. Our backups to object storage are highly efficient as well, and I'll be talking more about that when I showcase the architectural overview. But when doing these backups to your public cloud infrastructure, they're 100% agentless, they're always application consistent, and you also can be assured that you don't need to have any additional installs on these government cloud infrastructures, right? Because our integration with the public cloud is fully based on the API level integration, meaning that it's secure and it's highly efficient, all right? So I've talked a lot. Let me just showcase visually how this works. So this is a typical example of an on-prem infrastructure. I just added a couple of clusters, VMware, Nutanix, a bunch of physical servers. These, hypervisor clusters running VMs with, choice of applications: Microsoft SQL, Exchange, Oracle, whatnot. Right now, if you wanted to basically have this infrastructure protected by Hycu, it's extremely simple and straightforward. All you would basically require is just one virtual appliance. As simple as that. And once you have that appliance in place, you could basically perform backups to any backup target. We are 100% backup target agnostic, meaning that we could do backups directly to NAS or iSCSI targets, or even S3 or object-based storage, right? So this is something that everybody does, and this is more of a formal introduction. But how does it really relate to GovCloud? Now, you can basically do this in two ways. The first way is pretty much everybody does, right? You basically do backups to your primary target, and then you basically ship those backups to Azure GovCloud or AWS GovCloud. Now, these are basically known as your secondary backups, or otherwise known as archives, where you simply do a copy from your primary backup target to your respective GovCloud object storage, right? But where Hycu can truly differentiate itself is by basically doing backups directly to Azure GovCloud or AWS GovCloud, meaning that you don't need this on-prem backup target if you don't want to, right? All you can do is you could basically get away with the Hycu virtual appliance and directly perform backups to your Azure blob under the Azure GovCloud, or AWS S3 under AWS GovCloud. And these can be incremental forever backups directly to the object storage. And that is the best part here, because from an investment standpoint, you don't have to invest in any on-prem or hardware infrastructure. These backups could be directly shipped to a GovCloud infrastructure, which has high security restrictions in place, especially when it comes to the label GovCloud, right? I mean, even the personnel who accesses this information has to be within the United States soil. They have to be US citizens. So there's a lot of security rules that they follow, and rest assured that your data can be safe and secure, all right? Now,
hey, Shiva?
Yes.
James from the state of Arkansas had a question about encryption and backups, and how can you ensure that your backups are secure? And James, you can correct me if I'm not summarizing this correctly, even if your primary storage does get encrypted in a ransomware attack.
So that's very simple, James. What we basically offer is two levels of security, right? One is to ensure that the backups are not accessible by the ransomware in itself, right? Basically, what we would do is we would ensure that your backups are fully fortified from being accessed by any of this ransomware attack, in terms of multi-factor authentication, network segmentation, ensuring that your backup targets are just accessible by your Hycu controller, like basically putting all of those security measures in place. That's number one, right? Number two is, let's say if those security walls have been breached, you can actually perform backups directly to worm-enabled object storage, the write once, read many parameter that can be set on your object storage, meaning that this is a hardware level feature, and this means that you can definitely ensure that the backups will be immutable, meaning that not even a super administrator will be able to encrypt or delete that backup. Right? The backup will only be expired only when the retention time at the hardware level is met. So, James, I hope that answers your question. So, does the backup meet CMMC compliance requirements? I would So to be honest, I don't have an answer to that question yet, Chris, but I can definitely follow up with you on that. I just need to go through the backup compliance requirements for CMMC. I'm sure that we should be able to meet most of these requirements, but I just don't want to comment on something that I'm not sure of. But another thing that I'd like to point out is our company is ISO 27001 certified, meaning that we do have a set of standards that we follow, and I can definitely take a look at that list and I can follow up with you on an email. All right. Just taking a look at the chat. So if the backup admin user account is hacked, yes. So James, to your point, right? Even if the backup admin's user account is hacked, if those backups reside on worm-enabled object storage, we can ensure that those backups cannot be deleted. Oh, on top of it, we can also ensure that the manual deletion option is fully disabled by default, meaning that even if the backup user account is hacked, they cannot make any API-based requests, or they cannot make any UI-based responses to delete those backups. So from a software perspective, we can lock out that access even if a user logs in. And from a hardware level, we can ensure that those backups reside within the worm-based object storage so that even the backup administrator won't be able to delete that backup. Thank you, James. So Rob, I believe there is another question. Is there a way to ensure your backup does not contain ransomware? Yes. So we can basically help you in ensuring that your backups are free of ransomware. There are two major ways of doing this. Number one, we do have a detailed alerting mechanism within the product where we basically measure the change rates. Now, especially when a server is encrypted, the data change rate could be enormous. Usually, we expect the change rate to be somewhere around 1 to 2% on a daily basis. But if that change rate within a day has let's say 10 to 15%, then we can alert you on that change percent, and we can also automate certain actions on what needs to be done, such as preventing the expiration of your backups, especially the uncorrupted backups. We could also pause the expiration of those backups to ensure that you don't lose any good backups. That's number one. And number two is we also have a rigorous backup validation capability where you could actually define policies on a regular basis to ensure that these backups will be validated. What Hycu does in the background is it would basically restore those backups, and it can perform additional functions on those restored backups, like running scripts or pinging performing network tests on those VMs. So we can basically ensure that these backups are validated on a regular basis to ensure that your backups are not corrupt or does not contain ransomware. So I hope, Rob, does that answer your question? I hope it does. All right, let me see if there are any more questions. Cool. All right.
Hey, Shiva?
Yes.
We've got about 5 minutes left, and I should point
and that's
out,
all I need. That's all I need, Ron. Thank you for that. I was going to ask you to. All right. So the last part that I wanted to talk about is the ability to seamlessly migrate to the GovCloud infrastructure. Now, look, I mean, it's all really nice that we could do backups directly to your GovCloud infrastructure. It doesn't need any agents or plugins or any additional infrastructure. But what if we could go an extra mile, right? What if we had the ability to basically help you, especially if you have an internal mandate to make your applications GovCloud ready, then we can actually help you to migrate your workloads to the GovCloud just like the way we would do backups. It's extremely simple, straightforward. We don't need any additional software or agents to do that. And the architectural diagram looks pretty simple and straightforward. All we would need to do is basically make use of your backups residing within your Azure blob and basically migrate them as virtual machines on Azure GovCloud. So today we support this capability on Azure GovCloud. For AWS GovCloud, this feature is basically on a committed roadmap item, and this should be available sometime this year. I would say sometime in Q3, if I'm not mistaken, but it's still subject to change. So that is the full level of capability, right? The ability to seamlessly not just back up your workloads do worm-enabled object storage, be it on-prem or public cloud, but also have this full-fledged security capability to ensure that you protect your backups from ransomware and malware attacks. Oh, so the last thing that I want to talk about is helping organizations to ensure that they're prepared, to ensure that they have a very good preparedness when it comes to recovering from a ransomware attack. And we basically discovered that a lot of customers that we work with are really unprepared. And let's face it, it's a very new phenomenon. I mean, it's basically becoming more and more common, and customers are slowly getting acclimated to this environment, right? So what we have done is we have basically introduced an interactive website, the rscore.org, and it's basically a set of questions that you can answer. And this website shouldn't basically take more than 10 minutes of your time to answer the entire questionnaire. And if you'd like to stay anonymous, you don't have to provide any of your contact information. But this is more of a community service that we are basically doing for our customers and for the entire IT community, so that if they just want to stay anonymous, but also ensure that they understand what it takes to be prepared for a ransomware attack, please check this website out. And because we not only help you with the questionnaires, but we also help you with displaying instant test results like a Hycu score. So please check us out. This is the www.getrscore.org. It's a very interactive website. Shouldn't take too much of your time. And if you wish to stay anonymous, you could do that as well. You don't have to share any of your contact information. So to finalize, I know I've spoken a lot. I've done my best to answer your questions. But to summarize, if you'd like to check more, if you'd like to know more about our solution, please check us out at tryhycu.com for an evaluation. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And if you have any questions, please reach us out at info@hycu.com. And if you'd like to know more about our solution, please visit us at www.hycu.com. So